Since we're going to talk about comedy, we cannot ignore the fact that Jerry Lewis died. And this is an amazing thing. He died at 91. Amazing thing. I was talking to my son about it yesterday, and he was like, "Who's Jerry Lewis?" You know, and that is how fleeting fame is. I mean, what would that be like to most of the people listening to that show? It would be like somebody saying, "Who was Madonna? Who were the Beatles?" Something like that. I mean, Jerry Lewis was immense. And if you don't, I mean, he came after the war. He was this antic Jewish comedian who played like basically a retard. I mean, that's all, you know, all he could talk in his funny voice, and he did it, you know, would flail around. And he linked up with Dean Martin, who was this kind of crooner of the Italian variety, you know, very much the sort of second generation of crooners, of American crooners. And with the sleek kind of lover boy Dean Martin and this, what did Jerry Lewis describe their act? He described it as a handsome guy and an ape, or a handsome guy and a gorilla, something like that. And they would do this lounge act, this act in nightclubs, where at the end of it, they would just start ad-libbing, and it was like, people had never seen anything like it before, and you can't find it. There are no tapes of it because it was all live. And once they got on TV, of course, it started to get curtailed, you know, because they couldn't curse and they couldn't do all the blue material they were doing. But here is just to give you a flavor of it, because this is now, we're talking like 1947 to 1957. This is when the Martin and Lewis guys were huge. But just to give you a flavor of it, here they are on a Bing Crosby, Bob Hope television show. Okay, so now that's the old generation, and Crosby and Hope, who were themselves a comedy team in film, introduced the two of them, and Lewis and Martin come on, and this is just a sliver of it.
Bing Crosby, Bing Frisbee, here, fellow, boy, young man, here, innkeeper, find that boy. Bob, Robert, where's Bing Crosby? Here, fine lad, up there, walk him around for an hour.
Stop talking about my father that way.
Bing, fine lad, here, boy.
Boy, here, boy.
Here. Good boy, here.
Listen, when did they cut the strings off?
Hey, Bing!
He's hiding, and I don't blame him.
Helsinki right now.
Say that here. What?
No, Helsinki. He thought it was dirty.
Most of you are wondering why we've asked you here tonight.
Well,
Let's get me out of this.
well, rehearse your tune, and I'll tell the folks how happy we ought to be here. I'd like to say that it certainly is a thrill being on this show, especially which camera's on. None of them.
None of the guys, you know, Bing Crosby, obviously, who was at that point an American icon, maybe one of the biggest. He's like, boy, come back on. So it was this very antic stuff. You cannot capture it. After they had a massive, acrimonious breakup, Martin and Lewis, I think it was around 57, 58, and Lewis, they both went on and had these tremendous careers. The idea was that Lewis, I can't remember whether it was Lewis was the talented one and Martin was not supposed to not be, but they both went on and had tremendous careers. Lewis started to direct, not only make movies, but direct movies. And he's an acquired taste. It's like, I personally, like, I've never really gotten into him, but he made this one film called The Nutty Professor, which Eddie Murphy remade later. With Lewis producing it, but he directed this film in which he played this kind of shambolic, shambling, retarded-looking professor who does a Jekyll and Hyde thing, and he takes a drink, and he turns into Dean Martin. He turns into this Buddy Love, this lounge singer, and it sort of worked out this thing, which was obviously a big deal in his head, where Martin had become his idol, you know, this sort of smooth, easygoing, non-Jewish guy who just fit in and all the women loved him. The joke, of course, was that Dean Martin was a very strange guy and a kind of a misanthrope who ended up his life almost as a hermit, whereas Lewis was sleeping with every woman who came anywhere near him. I mean, Lewis was actually the lover boy of the two of them. So if you don't think he's had an effect, just take a look at Jim Carrey, Robin Williams, Who else? I mean, just about every. Woody Allen directed his first film only when Lewis said he wouldn't do it. They've all been affected. He was at the heart of American comedy. Again, an acquired taste, but truly a giant in the field in terms of his effect. And